If I told you, the man who's constantly thinking about you but not choosing you is revealing more about modern love than you realize, could you accept that truth? There's a profound difference between having someone on your mind and choosing someone in your heart, something Fromm discovered that might explain the pain you're carrying. I know exactly what it's like to feel like you live in his mind, but not in his life. To realize you awaken something in him, maybe even a silent obsession, but when it comes time to take a stand, to commit, to build something together, he simply doesn't choose you. And then you're left in this painful limbo, feeding on crumbs of attention, interpreting signs, trying to decipher if that look means something or if you're just building castles in the clouds. You're not imagining things. You're not asking for too much. And no, the problem isn't that you're not enough. What's happening is much deeper and has to do with something Fromm called neurotic love, a form of loving that isn't really love at all, but rather a projection, a fantasy, a way of possessing without surrendering. The philosopher and psychoanalyst Fromm dedicated much of his work to uncovering the differences between mature love and the illusions we often mistake for it. He believed there's a fundamental distinction between having a person, seeing them as an object of desire, a source of pleasure, a way to escape loneliness, and being with a person, which is the very heart of true love. When a man thinks of you constantly but doesn't choose you, he's experiencing what Fromm identified as symbiotic love, an immature way of relating where the other person serves to fill an inner void. There's no real desire to grow together, to evolve together, to take on the responsibility of building something meaningful. Today, you're going to understand why this pattern repeats itself in the lives of so many sensitive and aware women. Why emotionally immature men are drawn to your depth, but then run from the real intimacy it would require of them. And most importantly, how you can break this cycle without closing your heart or dimming your light. Your feminine energy is far too precious to waste on loves that simply can't mature. And today, you'll discover how to protect that energy, while opening yourself only to those who have the courage to truly choose you. Fromm teaches us there's a profound difference between two ways of relating, the having mode and the being mode in love. And this distinction perfectly explains why he thinks about you but doesn't choose you. In the having mode, the loved one becomes an object of possession. He thinks about you because you stir up feelings he wants to have, your attention, your feminine energy, your ability to make him feel special. But truly choosing you would mean shifting from having to being, and that demands an emotional maturity many men simply haven't developed. When a man operates in the having mode, you become like a work of art he admires in a museum. He can spend hours contemplating it. He might even get emotional. He can leave there thinking about that experience. But taking the artwork home, caring for it, taking on the responsibility of preserving and honoring it every day, that's completely different. Love in the being mode, according to Fromm, requires 4 essential elements: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. When you coldly analyze the attitude of this man who thinks about you but doesn't choose you, how many of these elements can you identify? Care would be him genuinely worrying about your well-being, not just when it suits him. Responsibility would be him acknowledging that his actions impact your emotional life. Respect would be him honoring your feelings and not playing with them. Knowledge would be him being truly interested in who you are, not just the feeling you provoke in him. The painful truth is that many men get stuck in this having phase because it's more comfortable. Thinking about you gives him pleasure without demanding growth. Desiring you from a distance feeds his ego without requiring vulnerability. Keeping you in an undefined zone guarantees him the emotional benefits of your presence without the commitments of mature love. It's as if he were living an imaginary relationship with you, where he has total control over how you appear in his life, when you appear, how you appear. In the fantasy, you are always available, always understanding, always beautiful, always at your best. Choosing you for real would mean dealing with the real person, with your real needs, with the real responsibility of building something together. For Fromm, this kind of love is actually a disguised form of selfishness. The man loves the feeling you give him, not you. He loves the idea he has of you, not your reality. And as long as he remains in that place, you will continue to be a beautiful fantasy in his mind, never a real choice in his heart. Fromm identified that immature love always carries a specific characteristic: the inability to tolerate separation. It seems contradictory, but that's exactly what happens when he thinks about you obsessively, yet doesn't choose you. To truly choose someone means accepting that this person has their own will, their own needs, their own path. It means accepting that you are two separate beings who choose to unite, not one person trying to fill the other's void. And for many emotionally immature men, this separation is terrifying. When he only thinks about you, he can perfectly control you in his mind. In this fantasy, you don't have inconvenient needs. You don't question his inconsistencies. You don't demand reciprocity. You exist only to nurture his self-esteem, to be the escape valve for his loneliness, to confirm that he is desirable and special. But choosing you would mean accepting that you are a whole person, with your own expectations, your own dreams, your own wounds. It would mean that he would have to grow to be worthy of you. He would have to develop the ability to give himself without losing his identity, to love without possessing, to commit without erasing himself. Fromm observed that many people confuse intensity with depth in love. The obsession he feels for you may be intense. He may spend hours thinking about you. He may feel a magnetic attraction. He may even suffer when you pull away. But intensity is not depth. Depth is the ability to remain present in difficult times, to choose growth instead of comfort, to honor the loved one even when it is not convenient. There is also what Fromm called passive symbiotic love, when the person seeks in the other an emotional mother or father who will solve all their internal problems. He may be projecting onto you the function of healing wounds that only he can heal, of filling voids that only he can fill. And deep down, he knows that if he truly chooses you, this illusion will shatter. The psychoanalyst also noted that immature love is always accompanied by a fantasy of fusion, the illusion that two people can become one. When he thinks about you obsessively, he is feeding this fusion fantasy. But when you become real with real needs, the fantasy breaks. The emotionally mature man, on the other hand, manages to love while preserving individuality. He chooses you precisely because you are a person separate from him, with your own light, your own wisdom, your own journey. He doesn't want to absorb you. He wants to walk beside you. That's the difference between being an obsession and being a choice. Obsession is ego. Choice is love. How can you tell if you're caught in this pattern of having love in your own life? Fromm gives us some very clear clues that you can observe in his behavior, and in your own. A man who only has you in his mind but doesn't choose you will often keep the relationship in a state of deliberate ambiguity. He never defines what you are, never talks about the future, never publicly acknowledges that you're important. But at the same time, he shows jealousy when you pull away, gets upset when you're with other people, obsessively monitors your social media. Also, notice how he responds to your real emotional needs. When you need genuine support, a deep conversation, presence during difficult times, he vanishes, changes the subject, or turns everything into a question about himself. He likes the romantic idea of you, but runs from real emotional responsibility. Another sign is that the entire dynamic revolves around what's convenient for him. He appears when he misses you, when he needs validation, when he's bored or lonely. But in those moments when you need him to choose you, in an important decision, in a public moment, in a situation where he'd have to take a stand, he disappears or makes excuses. For Fromm, mature love is recognized by spontaneous reciprocity. It's not about demanding attention or forcing demonstrations. It's about noticing that there's a natural flow of care, where both of you genuinely care about each other's well-being. If you're always in the position of trying to understand, of justifying his inconsistencies, of accepting crumbs hoping that one day he'll grow up, you're feeding the having mode of love. You've become an object of emotional comfort, not a life partner. The question Fromm would ask is, does this man demonstrate the 4 pillars of mature love towards you? Does he nurture your inner peace? Or does he only seek you out when he needs his own peace? Does he take responsibility for the impact he has on your emotional life? Does he respect you as a whole person? Or does he only see you through the filter of his own needs? Does he seek to know who you really are? Or does he only relate to the idealized version he's created in his mind? When you honestly look at these questions, the difference between being an obsession and being a choice becomes crystal clear. And you can finally stop interpreting confusing signals and start recognizing true love. But why is it so hard to walk away from a man who only thinks about you but doesn't actually choose you? Fromm helps us understand that we're often operating in having mode without even realizing it. Maybe you're clinging to the fantasy that you can change him, that your love is so special it will awaken his capacity for mature love. Or perhaps you're caught in the illusion of feeling special because you ignite an obsession in him, even if that obsession never translates into a real commitment. There's a dangerous shadow in this dynamic. You might be addicted to the emotional intensity that this uncertainty creates. The drama of wondering if he'll ever choose you could be masking an inner void that needs to be filled by you, not by any man. Fromm observed that many people prefer difficult relationships because they mistake suffering for depth, intensity for passion. If you grew up believing that love is a struggle, that love is a conquest, that love is constantly proving your worth, then a man who simply chooses you without all the drama might seem, well, boring. Another trap is the illusion of control. When he only thinks about you but doesn't commit, you might feel like you still have a chance to make him change his mind. You might get stuck trying to crack the code, trying to be the perfect version of yourself that will finally win him over. But that's not love. It's a way of trying to control the uncontrollable. The deepest shadow of all might be the fear of being truly seen and chosen for who you really are. A man who only fantasizes about you will never know your imperfections, your real needs, your difficult days. In a way, staying in an imaginary relationship protects you from the vulnerability of real love. Fromm would say that both you and he might be running from the emotional maturity that real love demands. He runs by choosing only to fantasize about you. You might be running by accepting being just a fantasy. There's also the issue of wounded self-esteem. If deep down you don't believe you deserve to be chosen, then a man who only thinks about you might seem like the best you can get. You might be settling for crumbs because you don't believe you deserve the whole feast. The most painful thing is realizing that while you're trapped in this dynamic, men who would actually have the courage to choose you might be passing you by unnoticed. You might be so focused on winning over someone who doesn't want you that you're unavailable to someone who would choose you without hesitation. Escaping this emotional trap begins with a decision only you can make: to stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself. Fromm teaches us that mature love is only possible when two whole people decide to walk together. As long as you're trying to fill internal voids through male validation, you aren't whole. And emotionally immature men are drawn to women who don't feel complete. The first step is to develop what Fromm called productive self-love. It's not narcissism or selfishness. It's the ability to relate to yourself with the same 4 pillars of mature love: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Nurture your inner peace as you would something sacred. Take responsibility for your happiness, your dreams, the quality of your emotional life. Respect your needs, your boundaries, your feelings. Know deeply who you are when you aren't trying to impress anyone. When you develop this healthy relationship with yourself, something interesting happens. You stop accepting emotional breadcrumbs because you know what abundance feels like. You stop interpreting mixed signals because your intuition becomes crystal clear. You stop settling for men who only think about you because you immediately recognize those who would choose you without hesitation. Fromm said that love is an art, and like any art, it needs to be practiced. Practice loving maturely by starting with yourself. Practice choosing your own well-being. Practice saying no to what doesn't serve you, and yes to what nourishes your soul. The man who only thinks about you but doesn't choose you is actually doing you a favor. He's showing you that he doesn't have the emotional maturity to be with a whole woman. He's disqualifying himself. Your only responsibility is to honor that, to stop trying to convince him to choose you, to stop accepting ambiguity, to stop mistaking infatuation for love. When you become a woman who chooses herself every day, you naturally attract men who have the courage to choose you too. And then, you experience what Fromm described as true love. Two free souls who decide to walk together. Imagine how different your life would be if you stopped spending your energy trying to be chosen by those who can't choose you, and instead directed all that strength into choosing yourself every single day. Fromm shows us that when a woman develops genuine self-love, she becomes a natural magnet for mature love. Not because she's trying to attract it, but because she's radiating the energy of someone who already feels complete. An emotionally mature man recognizes this energy immediately. He isn't confused about what he wants, because you don't awaken in him the neurotic need to possess, but rather the healthy desire to share life with someone who already has a full life. When you stop accepting relationships based on fantasies and ambiguities, you create space for relationships based on conscious choices. The man who truly chooses you doesn't need to obsessively think about you. He simply acts consistently with his feelings. He doesn't keep you in a zone of uncertainty because he isn't afraid to own what he feels. He doesn't disappear during important moments because your presence in his life is a priority, not a convenience. He doesn't play games with your feelings because he genuinely respects who you are. The most profound transformation happens when you realize you'll never again accept being an obsession in someone's mind, because you've discovered what it's like to be a choice in someone's heart. The difference is so clear, so tangible, that you wonder how you managed to settle for so little for so long. You stop being anxious trying to decipher confusing behavior because you're in relationships where communication is clear. You stop feeling insecure about where you stand because you're with someone who gives you certainty through actions, not just words. And the most beautiful thing, you discover that mature love isn't less intense than obsession. It's deeper. It's not less passionate. It's more solid. It's not less transformative. It's more sustainable. Fromm was right. True love isn't about having someone. It's about being with someone. And when you find a man who knows the difference, you understand why it was worth it to stop accepting anything less. I'm going to leave you with a simple practice that Fromm would approve of, the exercise of conscious choice. For the next 7 days, upon waking, place your hand on your heart and ask yourself, how can I choose myself today? It could be choosing to nourish yourself with care, choosing a moment of silence to listen to your soul, choosing to say no to what doesn't serve you, choosing to honor your feelings without judgment. At night, before sleeping, reflect. Where today did I accept crumbs when I deserved abundance? Where did I try to be chosen instead of choosing? Don't judge yourself, just observe. Awareness is the first step toward liberation. And whenever you feel the temptation to interpret confusing behaviors, to accept ambiguities, to settle for men who only think about you, remember Fromm's words. Immature love says, I love you because I need you. Mature love says, I need you because I love you. The woman who learns the difference between being an obsession and being a choice never again gets lost in relationships that don't honor her. She becomes a beacon of self-love that naturally attracts those who have the courage to love maturely. You're not here to be a fantasy in anyone's mind. You're here to be a real choice in the heart of someone who knows the value of what they have. You're here to experience the love that Fromm described. Mutual care, shared responsibility, genuine respect, profound knowledge. That love exists. Men with that maturity exist. But first you need to develop that maturity in yourself. You need to become the kind of woman who recognizes true love when she finds it and has the courage to dismiss anything less. Your feminine soul already knows this truth. Your intuition already whispers that you deserve more. Trust that ancient wisdom that lives within you. Choose yourself today and every day until you find someone who chooses you with the same awareness and determination. Mature love isn't a utopia. It's a real possibility for those who have the courage to grow until they deserve it.